Broadsheet, Niall Murphy, Olga Cronin, John Moynes, Mike McGrath-Bryan, Aaron McAlorum, Emily O'Callaghan, our columnists Dan Boyle, Derek Mooney and Dr. Rory Hearn, our producer Mike McGrath-Bryan, also Nick Flavin. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. In particular, we'd like to say a big hello to our commenters and all our readers. The purpose of Broadsheet on the Telly is to give a platform for voices you seldom hear on the telly or on the radio. And if you have anything to say on any topic, just leave them in the comments below, and we shall read them as the show goes on. And even if we don't sort of deal with them this week, we could maybe deal with them next week. If you'd like to be involved in the show, we'll tell you how to do that at the end of the show, which will be either 12:30 or 12:45, depending on how good we are, I guess. And
how the discussion rambles, really.
Exactly. Thank you, Mike. So sharing their thoughts tonight are Johnny Keenan, Mark McKeown, Neil Curran, Olga Cronin, and Adele Brady. We met Johnny, Connor, and Neil last week. So I'll introduce Marcel Kruger, who was a contributor last week. He's from Germany, you might remember him. His wife was involved in a car crash, or his partner was involved in a car crash today. It wasn't serious, but he is tending to her this evening and will probably join us next week. So everybody at the sheet would like to wish Marcel and his partner the best. So we have journalist and civility Olga Cronin from Middleton, County Cork. Olga's been with the site since our first year and works on a lot of the bigger stories, works with Roger on the timelines, and is a great asset to the site. And she is going to sort of talk us a bit through some of the Maurice McCabe story that might be a bit complex for me, certainly. And we have a woman from outside who's contacted us following our plea for more women to contact us and get involved if they could. Adele Brady is a writer from Fisborough. Adele contacted us yesterday, and I've asked her to introduce herself. So Adele, maybe you just say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm from Athlone, but I live in Phibsborough. I work in IP and I'm a Broadsheet reader. So I just thought I'd get involved. You look like you were struggling last week. You needed some women on board.
we really were, and now we've got two. So maybe next week we could have the perfect balance. So Mike, can we just fly through tomorrow's papers? Just tomorrow's papers are.
Sure thing, buddy. Let me just crank up the old machine here.
Okay.
The papers head out on the website every evening at about 11 o'clock, by the by. Broadsheet.ie, and bingo. Okay. Eventually. There you go.
Okay. Are they
the Friday papers?
That's it, yeah. Okay, so it's the Irish Times is Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, can viewers see that? Like, just everybody can see that. Okay, great.
Murphy's Law, folks. It's live. We meant to do it.
Okay. Mike. Yes, Mike. Could you scroll down just a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. So this is the Irish Times. Kenny stands firm on his pressure bills on leadership. Blah blah blah. Yeah, just if you can come down a little bit. Yeah. If you just pull up a little bit of the Times. Okay.
Yeah.
And to the Examiner, we just. This is. So can I just before we get all serious, there's a frog on the cover of the Times, photographed in O'Leary. No, the English Times, the Times Ireland edition, Mike.
Yeah, you're looking for that. My apologies, I was looking for the Irish Times. Yeah.
This chap, if you look at the caption, you come down, Mike.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. He's a frog in Dunleary, and he's on the lookout for a mate. So maybe we can just discuss this later. How do they know he's looking for a mate? Maybe he's happy to be a single frog. Anyway, we'll discuss that later. So just, Mike, if you could just come down then onto the Examiner, and yeah.
Kenny's allies in the cabinet are also facing the chop.
Okay, and this same story that was in the Irish Times, the GA injuries are like those of car crash victims. The media are out of control, says Trump. So we're going to go to those, but Derek Mooney said earlier this week that this is not one crisis but two, the Garda crisis, and I feel that the political one is a huge distraction today, particularly. The leadership bid seems to me to be, what are we talking about? I mean, he wasn't going to go for the next election. The obsessive, there was 19 minutes on prime time tonight on that. It was simply like a political obituary or a summation of, it was frankly bizarre. And the Katie Hannon item on Maurice McCabe was reduced to about 4 minutes 30 seconds, of which I didn't actually fully understand the story. So, what I wanted to ask, I want to go straight to Johnny. Johnny, what are your thoughts on what's happened this week at both crises?
I don't know. The real news broke this time last week when we were on, and it's just been chock-a-block all week. It's been actually really depressing, to be honest with you, John. I think out of all the scandals that led to tribunals, and no one ever got reprimanded first, and it's the same again, and you can almost see it coming. But this time, it's a complete Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael fiasco, and all from the top end of the hierarchy. Jerry McCabe, Maurice McCabe, beg your pardon, and his family, what they've gone through has been, I don't know, the hell and back. And now it's all about Enda Kenny leaving. 3 months, and the dignity of his leaving, they're just completely hoodwinking us again, and RTE bias. Let's go back there because it's so prevalent. I don't really know what to say, John. It's just, I think it's the worst nightmare that this country has ever had in my lifetime. I'm 42 years old, so something really has to be done. This has to be the end of the line for Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and that kind of politics. That is endemic in Garda Síochána. O'Sullivan needs to be gone. I think an awful lot will happen by Monday. There'll be an awful lot of resignations by Monday outside of Enda Kenny, but I'd like to see half his cabinet go with him. And Fianna Fáil as well for abstaining. The cheek of them. The next election, what's going to be the manifesto? Oh, vote for us and we sit in the fence. They did the same thing with the Simon Coveney bill for homelessness there recently as well. That's what they do. They abstain. They're in cahoots with Fine Gael. It's a disgrace. And they have to be shown for what they are. And I just really feel bad about the whole situation.
Well, I was going to come to you in a second just to talk about the kind of some of the details of the Tussle stuff and what's happened tonight. But anyway, I just want to get an overview then. Neil, what are your thoughts tonight on? And it's been 7 days since we sort of rabbited about this last week.
Yeah, it's like the political fallout here is just now becoming an unwelcome distraction from really what the issue is. But this whole crisis in leadership with Fine Gael shows that the difference between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael is the colour of their hair and the accents in their mouth. When Fianna Fáil lost the leadership of the country in shame, we're going to see the exact same thing here with Fine Gael, and it's the same power struggle that's going on. And Johnny summed it up well. I mean, Fianna Fáil sitting on the fence. And look at what our alternatives were in this situation that we were in a few years ago, except at the back of it all, we have this McCabe issue that is not going to be addressed, because with this fallout in leadership, then how long is it going to be before we're going to see this really tackled head on and justice being served? And this is the leadership of this country for multiple governments in a row. And when is it going to stop?
Well, I assume when there's a viable opposition, and there doesn't seem to be a one that's coalescing really. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not brilliant opposition people, but it doesn't seem to be I forgot the name of the Spanish Podemos, a populist movement. Although the Irish Water, you could say, was one, but Adele?
Yeah, I was just thinking today how strange it is that we haven't been able to form a very solid, like, left, I guess, party, or some sort of party that can be a real opposition to Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and break the cycle. It's exhausting. It's a shit show right now.
And Connor, we got some fan mail for you, by the way. If, after the show, we'll get it to you from.
Oh Jesus.
From some people of both gender, frankly.
Okay. I think what the McCabe thing has precipitated this power move by Coveney and Varadkar. I think it was coming. Let's not forget that the election was less than a year ago, and when the government was finally formed 3 months after the election, it was not a matter of if this government was going to go and we were going to have another election. I think that's the main story today, and it is a bigger story. Let's be realistic. We're looking at another election by the end of the summer.
Well,
unfortunately,
election at the end of the summer, that's not a big story on a day of still dealing with revelations. I know. I'm just talking about sort of the news values of the day. The Enda Kenny leadership thing is a story that could run any day of the week.
Yeah, and I presume you think that it's a little bit of a distraction what's going on and the leadership race that's occurred or has started is sort of taken over from the real issues. But I think that's just the way it goes, particularly with mainstream media coverage. I mean, if you look at all the papers, the Kenny story is the headline story.
Yeah, but the McCabe story is just absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's
completely removed from the narrative. The focus is just shifted entirely. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, Olga, would you be able to just explain what happened this evening? No.
Yeah. I might just go through what we knew already and then explain what happened in regards just to the Tusla and Sergeant Maurice McCabe, because then we know the difference between what happened tonight as far as I could follow. So basically, in January 2006, we understand that Maurice McCabe made a serious complaint about a guard who allegedly attempted a suicide after having taken alcohol. And I don't think it was on his own, but this is the complaint. This is the basis of the complaint. That's what we understand.
Okay.
In the same year, that guard then made a complaint about Sergeant Maurice McCabe, and his daughter subsequently made a statement saying that when she was 6 years old, she was playing hide and seek, and then when he found her, he tickled her and he rubbed up against her, or touched her, or rubbed up against her inappropriately. That was the allegation. There was an investigation, and there was a file sent to the DPP, and the DPP said there was nothing to answer and said that it was doubtful the allegations should constitute a crime at all. That's what he said. Then fast forward then to 2013, August 2013, a counsellor notified Tusla to say that this counsellor had a client who had made an allegation against Maurice McCabe. But when this file was made for Tusla, its referral to Tusla, it included a different allegation, a much more serious allegation about digital penetration. So once that happened, then a social worker contacted the original investigating Garda from the 2006 statement. And I think there was supposed to be some sort of request for a meeting, but we don't know whether that happened or not. And the superintendent wasn't told until May 2nd, 2014, which was 8 months after that had happened. Then the following year, in April 2014, Tusla opened files on McCabe's children with this new allegation was included in these files. And two of his children were over the age of 18 when those files were made. Then on May 14th, 2014, this is my understanding, the counsellor contacted Tusla to say that they had made a mistake and that it was a copy and paste error. That's what we were told in the original primetime show. So it was a copy and paste error in regards to this digital penetration. So then at that time too, a social worker from Gisela, I guess, wanted the Guardian notification to be updated so that they were notified that there had been this mistake. And then we know then in 2015, that's when the social worker wrote to Sergeant Maurice McCabe to say that TUSLA was investigating an allegation of abuse against him. And then we know what happened with him once he found out and everything.
Yeah.
Tonight, Katie Hannon, who has been leading the story on this, she...
With Michael Clifford.
With Michael Clifford, absolutely, yeah. And she has, tonight, so she basically said that she, while she hasn't seen the file herself, the TUSLA file, or the referral rather, she has spoken to someone who has, and she's also spoken to the girl at the centre of this, her solicitor. And essentially, it wasn't a copy and paste error, it was a failure to delete error, because apparently the counsellor had been using, what was it, I'm trying to remember how she worded it, she was using a referral
template.
A template, sorry, yes, using a template, and then, but didn't delete whatever was on the template before she sent on the file. So,
and that differs from the copy and paste.
This is the administrative error, yeah. But also she said that if anyone had seen it, it should have jumped out of the page that it was completely incorrect. It also included 2 alleged abuse victims. So what she said was that the words that were used for her, or what she was told, was it should have just jumped off the page. It was completely just off the wall wrong, I guess.
Because it was a single complaint, but yet there were 2 abuse victims and alleged victims in this complaint.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she also explained a little bit more about this girl. So she said that the girl's mother made the appointment with the counsellor. There was only one session with the counsellor.
Right.
She only had this one counselling session. She had no idea that a referral had been made to TUSLA as a result of that session.
Right.
And that it wasn't until months later when she was contacted by the Gardaí. Because if you remember, so when she was contacted by the Gardaí, she went down to the Garda station with her parents, and they looked at this file and they said, "That's completely wrong. That didn't happen. That wasn't her complaint. That wasn't."
Right. The family, the mother and the father and the daughter, all agreed on that.
Yeah. So, and Katie made the point that this account from her solicitor differed to what Simon Harris told the Dáil during the week in regards to the timeline of events. And I guess, I guess one of the major questions is, the contact between the counsellor and the guards. So in the original primetime report, there was this business of, once they found the error and the error was made known, there was an email sent, and if I remember correctly, the counsellor said something like, "I got another call. I don't think the superintendent is aware," because if you remember, they're updating the guards on this allegation. And so they're, sorry, completely lost my train of thought there, sorry.
Okay, so the news tonight is that it wasn't a I'm as nervous as a kitten, so don't want to.
I think, in fairness to Olga there, John, it was very confusing what Katie Hannon was on about there today, and even her colleague was almost smirking in relation to it, because she had to go back and over about referral and this and that. Yeah, just kind of real gobbledygook, and she had 4.5 minutes to get the story of the week across, and he was there quickly now, and they had other obviously interesting stuff on it that they had to promote as well, or discuss, but it was very confusing what Katie Hannon was on about this evening.
Yeah, sorry, just to go back there, sorry, what I lost my trail of thought, and I can't believe I lost my trail of thought, apologies, but it was in relation to the fact that the counsellor said she was worried that the superintendent hadn't been notified, and that there was supposed to be some sort of a meeting between a guard and the commissioner. So the question is, well, who contacted that councillor? Or why did the councillor think this, that the guard wasn't notified, and
Okay.
who was contacting who? And I guess obviously that's what the tribunal are trying to find out, and that's what.
Okay. Could I ask the panel what they think? Sorry,
Feedback.
Okay, feedback.
Yeah.
somebody out better talk.
Yeah, I think it's not a surprise that we're getting bogged down in semantics on this. There's a lot of feedback. Obviously, a case like this and a concerted discrediting effort towards Garda McCabe has been made. How can I say this? I think the effort's been made, and precisely these details are so heavy and they're so difficult to understand. It's because the perpetrators of this slander towards Garda McCabe.
Sorry, forgive me.
The absolute scandal that's happened towards this man and his family. Still listening. Hi, sorry. Trying to say something.
Just for one moment, maybe I could. Neil, have you feedback?
Feedback about
If
the
you have no feedback, give us some feedback about this.
I think Olga's your mic is causing the feedback.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
There we go.
Technology.
oh my goodness.
No, John.
Yeah.
Do you think of any of your speakers around the background?
Oh, no.
I'm just speaking into the laptop. I don't know.
Okay, okay. So, can I apologize to everyone who are maybe watching at home? How are we going to do? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. If I can check, if everybody can check their monitors on this.
Is that better? Sorry. Okay. How's that now?
Still getting feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting live and we use all of it.
Hello, Cleveland.
Actually, Connor, your feedback is not as painful as my feedback, so perhaps you could elaborate what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what I was saying. The nitty gritty and the details that's happening in crime. It's an external mic, by the way. Someone's got a mute. Olga, I can see you mute there when you're not talking. That'll probably work. Yeah, I think that's done it there. Okay. I can't. Just that the mics with Hangouts are very they pick up a lot. But the nitty gritty and the load of details, that it's very difficult to understand. I think that's the point that's happening now. It looks like it's turning into a cover-up towards Garda McCabe. And I think the important thing for the people that tried to discredit him, their main aim is to now muddy the waters as much as possible. And I think that's what they're doing. And let's be honest, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of it, because the government have decided to step in and have a leadership battle right during the middle of it.
Yeah.
And bury it.
Yeah, I mean, like all of the inquiries next into McCabe's treatment and into, what happens next with Tusla and their handling of things also is completely lost in the shuffle. And that's a big area of concern, especially considering that people are already weary of quote unquote leadership battles between two cheeks of the same arse, effectively, in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
Could I just ask anybody, does anybody believe that Enda believed these allegations, had heard the allegations, had believed they were on file somewhere? So up to maybe, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, he was unaware of the copy paste of the template thing.
Yeah, I actually would believe that. I think he's unaware of most things. He's not a very effective leader for somebody who's just been called fabulous. He's a waste of space, and he's not tuned in. He has no idea what's going on in this country. He's not involved at all. He's missing. So yeah, it's probably actually very likely that that's the truth. But it's not excusable.
Well, I think
it's not excusable, but it does explain it. The man is, as you stated, he is entirely tuned out. And I think the same can be said for a lot of people in that party, unfortunately, because again, they don't know what's going on because they're not directly affected by it, so they don't care. And I think Enda, as a figurehead that a lot of older backbenchers know, and as a lot of the grassroots party members know, especially, he's a harmless figurehead more so than any sort of actual leader. So it wouldn't be of any surprise if he wasn't hip to what was happening, or quite frankly, has the full grasp on the situation quite yet.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was if he was. I'm not going to speculate on what he knew and what he didn't know, but it could also be a matter of don't ask, don't tell with the Garda Síochána as well.
Yeah, well, I think Enda, I don't want to get so particularly personal, but he had an imaginary conversation this week. I mean, he told people about a conversation that just didn't take place. Now he's either really ruthless about this whole issue, or he's I don't know, sort of perhaps under a lot of strain, under a lot of pressure. I mean, how do you invent conversations that didn't happen with one of your ministers the day before?
Well, none of us really know what he does and doesn't know, and I don't think Enda knows what he does and doesn't know. But at the end of the day, he's the leader, he's the government. He has the responsibility to get through the weeds and have it dealt with appropriately. And that's not happening. It's never happened. And this kind of carry-on film being played out in the Dáil is just a farce. And this has to be dealt with head on, and leadership has to be shown. And I think you can shuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic all you want, whether it's Simon or Leo, and unless it's dealt with head on, the Titanic is still going to sink. And I realize that's the worst cliche I could use, but that's just what it feels like to me.
Well, it's a week of cliches. My God, if I hear a week is a long time. Oh, I'll go. Your mic thing. Yeah. You see, it's August.
But now Olga can't speak.
Well,
yeah.
This is
hearing us through the laptop.
This is obviously some plot, but I think it's a mic issue. It's a mic issue with you, Olga. I think, but when you put on your mic, everybody hears twice.
Yeah. Listening to us through her laptop speakers, so she's got some sort of headphones or so forth that will probably remedy the issue. But we march on regardless. We're live, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Enda and Leo and Simon. I suppose it doesn't film. Filming. It doesn't get the endorphins going. Just well, particularly I would say Simon Coveney. I find him very aloof and. Kind of not really so Bilderbergian, he's obviously Peter Sutherland's choice, but I'm surprised that he doesn't get more traction within the party itself. I don't know why that is, but and he would also seem to be on point for most of Fine Gael voters, whereas Leo Varadkar wouldn't seem to be on point with a lot of them. Would anybody have a contribution towards that?
I think they're all cut from the exact same cloth.
I mean, there's nothing I think Coveney is Enda 2.0 in that, he has the same kind of, again, he is rather on point as to what Fine Gael's faithful wants and requires. I mean, he's young in comparison to the rest of the Fine Gael parliamentary party, but also has a lot of that kind of, I suppose, surface relatability that Enda Kenny so hard to get a hold of. That he seems like he's the more natural choice out of the two. Though that being said, Fine Gael has an eye on populism and the populist right in particular. So Leo Varadkar as kind of a straight shooter that would play to, I suppose, the more free market element of the Fine Gael parliamentary party, he probably does a lot better with that crowd. So I think it's open. I think it's anyone's game.
Does anybody know Leah Varadkar? I mean, obviously the big issue is going to be, and I won't go back there again, Conor, I promise, back into the repeal the 8th, but what is Leah Varadkar's position on abortion? Does anybody know?
Well, he refers to fetuses as babies. So there's the bottom line and where he stands. But of course, just like everybody else from that party, as soon as popular opinion changes, I bet you he'll be on side. I bet you. I'd guarantee it.
Sniffing the wind.
Does he support the fatal fetal abnormality?
Oh, no, actually. Oh, well, I don't know if there's a definitive answer there. I'm not sure, actually.
Okay.
All just mentioned me there, just to finish off her point, what she was going to say, was that she knew of people who sent letter after letter to justice ministers, Taoiseach, etc., Lucy O'Farrell, Cynthia, all the people that were in the independent review panel, ... 250 families, and she reckons that they might know more of the situation. But
okay,
yeah, that's the addendum for the last debate.
I was going to ask Olga just on this, because Olga's been in touch with Keith Harrison this week, who's another Garda whistleblower, and he's now part of the terms of reference for this tribunal. Do you want to risk it, the mic, Olga?
Yeah, try it again there, Olga. Sure.
Sorry. No, he texted me there earlier, and he released a statement, and he's very happy that his case is going to be included in the tribunal. But yeah, what I was going to say earlier when you were saying, when we were talking about whether, if Enda Kenny knew earlier, I obviously don't know the answer to that, but I was just going to refer to the independent review panel of the families. I think it was like 250 families who felt that they had to try and get justice. Sorry, but my point is that they've been writing letters after letter after letter for years, and so I think that they probably would know more than.
Just the sound. Sorry. We'll sort out the mic. Don't worry. Can we move on sort of swiftly? My last point. Anyway, we'll probably get Olga later on with a better mic and stuff. I'm very sorry that this happened. I just want to get onto the Trump thing. We were going to talk about it last week, but he gave an 80-minute press conference today, kind of lambasting the media. Conor, you particularly wanted to.
Yeah, I watched it. It was like abstract art. It was a thing to behold. It was amazing. No, it was just a performance. It looked like that was the happiest he's been in a month, easily. Where he wants to be in front of his minions, picking off questions, pivoting, and saying what he wants to say, and not talking about the absolute tornado that's going through Washington at the moment. It's a sight to behold from a superpower.
Was he getting a hard time from the press?
Yeah, he was, but I mean, he's so blasé at this stage. He'll just pick on somebody and he'll go, "Oh yeah, BBC, yeah, BBC, okay," and that'll get a laugh in the room. And the poor Washington correspondent will say, "Oh yeah, well we're free and we're impartial," and we'll go, "Yeah, whatever you say." And then he'll go on and he'll just start having little digs at people and saying, "I don't like you, I like you. Now who's going to ask me a nice question?" And then somebody asked him a question about his wife and the first lady, and he was, "Now I like you. Who are you? I'm going to start watching you." It's off the wall. It's great to watch, though.
It's insane
it's
that
like
we laugh about this.
It's reality TV.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's insane that this is funny. It's insane that he hasn't been impeached. That we're talking about this as if this is a celebrity reality TV show. Like, this is real life. This is happening now. He has so much power, and we're laughing about how deranged he is.
Well, sorry.
Who else to deal with?
I know, but this is not working. Like, he's a meme now. He's just like this internet thing that we poke fun at. Like, and it's like the reality is so real. Like,
that's a good part of how he got to power in the first place, was just the sheer force of memetics, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That and a healthy dose of interference, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
But just I Conor was saying there earlier on, and that was the element of performance that goes into these press conferences, especially these performances that Trump gives out. Again, they do have the feel of a rally about them, where
it's a bit Nuremberg.
And again,
it's a bit Nuremberg, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, but I was about to draw a more prescient comparison, and I'm sure it's one that the Donald would appreciate himself. Donald J. Trump is a big professional wrestling fan, and unfortunately for me now, so am I. So I understand the psychology a little bit more in regards to what's happening here, and I could say that it speaks to how utterly unsuitable this man is for the role that he has been placed in. Donald Trump went up to that podium today with all the swagger of a professional wrestling anti-hero. He said things that he knew would appeal to his people and would get a derisory reaction out of people that didn't like him. He fancied himself like someone like Ric Flair, or up there and kind of pressing different buttons and controlling different crowds. And that's one thing if you're in a reality television show and you're projecting the image outward of the Donald, or if you're turning up at WrestleMania and shaving Mr. McMahon's head or what have you. But this is not the Donald. This is President Trump, unfortunately. And I think just like the cognitive dissonance is such that we're seeing this reality TV show star or this pro wrestling manager up on stage, etc., as the president. And I just think it's so difficult for us to make sense of it. We're not seeing it.
Well,
and
Wait,
leave this shit at WrestleMania, quite frankly.
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, I was in the US the day of his inauguration, and I woke up in California, which is a very democratic state. And it was NBC were pretty much having a go. It was like Terry Wogan during the Eurovision. That's what it reminded me of. But when I was last summer, I was driving from San Francisco to Yosemite, and as soon as you left the city limits as such of the Bay Area, and you hit the scorched earth of the countryside of California, that the signage for Trump was like that farmers and rural people had put up was everywhere. It was the equivalent of election posters here in Ireland. He went to Michigan, which is a predominantly, which was traditionally a Democratic area. And I don't think Hillary did any campaigning in Michigan. I think there was an expectation that it was just taken for granted. And he went into towns that had been hit by the recession. The motor industry had packed up shop and went elsewhere, and he rallied the troops and said, "I'm going to put taxes on these firms, and I'm going to bring the jobs back." And if you're living in a shithole like Detroit, I've been to Detroit, and the people are lovely, but it is a shithole. You will drive down the street, drive past slums, derelict, and then across the street there is derelict mansions. It really is what you see in RoboCop is true. I can't believe I used RoboCop as an example. But that people got behind that, because what's the alternative? The alternative, as much as we love Obama here in Ireland, and he was well received here. We're giving him the keys to the city, freedom of the city. Generally speaking, he's well received, but not to people not to people outside of New York, to outside of LA, outside of San Francisco. The news we see reported and what we see here. The people we speak to on Facebook and online, they're all living in the cities that are greatly affected. It's the same as Brexit. London had a very loud voice, but you go to Northern England during Brexit and you're going to hear a different story. So it's not. While the stuff he does is just is unbelievable and frightening. You take the whole Ivanka clothing range thing when Kellyanne Conway went on the air live and breached her, did something that's illegal. There's a hashtag by Ivanka, and I read tweets, hundreds of tweets. I was glued to these tweets, these hashtags of so many regular Americans who are getting behind the whole, we've got to support Ivanka here, 2 fingers to Nordstrom, and this is incredible. So while this is just, we laugh about it, we joke about it, but this, he's got a big following,
Well, of course, but I think, I mean, she was being clearly bullied, Ivanka, regarding that, the clothing thing, and she was being viciously bullied to a degree.
I don't know if she was getting bullied. I think her sales were down 25% in the last quarter of 2016.
Also, she was caught infringing upon different designs by different designers. So that was a massive problem too.
The other thing is that they just didn't look fantastic, to be quite honest.
Like all Trump products,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, look at the markets. Look how Wall Street has reacted since Trump has got in. You know, the stock market hasn't really been affected, despite, you know, there was an element of, you know, head in the sand when the campaign was going on. Literally at the last minute, then it was realized Trump was going to win, and we saw in the papers during the week how that some firms in, I think it was Cork, had held off plans to expand in Ireland because of the uncertainty that Trump has brought, and you know how they're I think it was pharmaceuticals, I could be wrong. So you know, we are starting to see that knock on. So while we have all the wild crazy stuff going on that makes the headlines, you know, take the visa ban, for example. Well, we all know, you know, the anti-Muslim ban or whatever we want to call it. One of the other changes he made to immigration was he changed the H-1B visa, which is the visa that, say, a lot of people would move to the US with their jobs with, and he over doubles, for example, the salary threshold related to that. So for example, if a company was bringing someone over from India, from Asia, you know, in the tech sector, the minimum salary they could pay that person was $60,000. That was one of the criteria. That was put up to $130,000 overnight. So he's made these fundamental changes, and you're seeing in Silicon Valley so many tech firms are very vocal, and they've signed petitions. And there was this big campaign where anti-Trump Uber people was sort of this delete Uber ridiculous hashtag. Which caused Uber then to be more outspoken in their views. So you've got this all going on in Silicon Valley, but not every industry is affected the same. And Wall Street, as I said, hasn't really seen. Well, Wall Street has been on the up.
Yeah, I saw the item on the 9 o'clock news. Katrina Perry, the RT correspondent. She was derisory of Trump. I mean, it has been like that throughout the election. I mean, there has to come a point where we, you know, he's not Boris Yeltsin, he's not a drunk, raving drunk. He's
not even Boris Johnson.
No, he's a New York real estate developer who's become president, and he's anti-globalist, which I think we can all applaud. You know, I mean, one of his first.
Let's see if he follows through on all of this. And it's the same as any other election campaign. You can go to all of the small towns you want, and you can say that coal is going to be profitable and sustainable again because I'm going to wave my reality TV wand and make it all happen. But the fact of the matter is, Trump is he's ragging on a lot of frayed threads in order to stay along here. And again, there are too many questions that surround him. I mean, think of one single solitary positive aspect of any sort of Donald Trump's flaming dumpster fire of an existence, and that's his objection to TTIP. That's something that does not get talked about, TTIP in particular, but I honestly thought that one was open for anybody to oppose and sweep through on, and he hasn't gotten any degree of news behind it, again, because he is such a class A disaster of a human being.
Well, sorry.
I think he was also right in admitting for the first time that the Americans are killers. I think there's an infamous interview now with your man from Fox who's talking about Putin being a killer, and Trump hits back saying, well, we're killers too. I mean, like, amazingly, he's actually said that. And let's be honest, he's true. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but he's actually true. I mean, if you look what's happening in Yemen at the moment. But just going back.
Was he claiming that as a positive thing?
I don't know. You don't know with him. I mean, like, he's a car salesman at the end of the day. But it's interesting. He got rid of Dodd-Frank yesterday. The regulations that were brought in since the financial crisis, they're now gone as well. Let's not forget that there's 6 former partners or employees of Goldman Sachs in the White House now. So basically, the business class in America have now literally got rid of the government class, and it's just business as usual.
Yeah,
that's what Trump is, and they've used him. They've used that populist. The neocons have they've piggybacked in as well. If you look at the, I mean, Mad Dog Mattis is the. I mean, the CEO of ExxonMobil is the Secretary of State. I mean, it's.
They've all got. They're all nicknamed Mad Dog, aren't they? Every one of the. Johnny,
Mattis. Yeah.
You mentioned Israel last week, Johnny. Just wondering what you felt this week with.
Well, the monster himself, called Trump, endorsed apartheid Israel again there this week. So that kind of says a lot more the same really in that regard. because everyone knows that Israel doesn't abide by world law. That's going on with everyone else has to abide to. The invasion of Gaza is ongoing, and he basically endorsed them again this week. I was interested as well that there was a good backlash from a lot of businesses, restaurants and such. It wasn't a big news story, but they all went on strike for the day just to prove to Trump how significant that the migrant workforce was in America. I thought that was quite symbolic.
Yeah,
and speaking of symbolism and all that, yeah, definitely. In relation to symbolism and that, we can't ignore the fact that someone's going to have to go over and give that gobshite a bowl of shamrocks. I recommend Michael D hangs out in Cuba for another while, dips into Jamaica, says hello to them, and gives them a big bowl of green on Paddy's Day. Maybe I might chill him out.
Yeah, that's going to be an awkward meeting, whatever way you look at it. I mean, I'm sure Trump will deal with it.
Boycott it.
I beg your pardon?
Boycott it. Why not? We're at the crossroads now in relation to where is Ireland going to go. We know exactly what Enda Kenny would do. We know exactly what Micheál Martin would do. Probably even Labour. You cannot endorse this dictator. That's what he is. He's a fascist. He's misogynist. He's everything that's wrong with America.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
Johnny,
by us endorsing that, come March, John, that guy will have no friends, and we're going to send over a representative on us. I don't think so, man. It's ridiculous.
Johnny, did you not feel though that with the way Obama and Hillary were going, that we were more likely to end up in World War III with them rather than Trump, who's just a deal maker?
Absolutely. I had no respect for Clinton and Obama, an awfully man as well, same as myself. I'm embarrassed. Bernie Sanders should have been the guy that got through there. That was rigged. Look at American politics down through the generations, lads. It's completely farce. They talk about whistleblowing. What they would do to Snowden, Assange, Chelsea Manning, they'd love to just rip these people apart. And then we have our own situation with whistleblower in our own country. And it almost is psychologically, we're taking our lead from the way America does politics rather than ourselves. And remember this, Ireland's a population of 4.5 million people. We all know each other. It's not as though we're segregated in relation to race riots and all that America has.
Except for travelers.
We should really take like a little island, except travelers, exactly. You're right, Conor. But that is changing, thankfully, in small ways. But well said, that you cannot ignore that travelers are a minority group in this country that are very much ostracized and stigmatized. But we're dealing with it, and this is a new liberal Ireland that I think that's happening. And going back to where the big story is, I think of the week. Let's not forget about it. It's about Garda corruption led by agencies and government colluding to discredit a whistleblower, an honourable man who did his best to stand up for every citizen's rights, and for 8.5 years while he's going through, and now another 3 months of his tribunal, and the suit's getting paid again, and then the Kenny laughing all the way into his retirement that he's got a pension from when he was a school teacher 40 years ago. He has it all planned, man. It's ridiculous. What I want to see is an election straight away, and I want young people to go out and vote, because that was the problem that happened last time. Young people didn't vote.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's going to happen and change in this country is people voting. Yeah. And I'm not saying to vote any way other than just vote and vote for the right people.
Yeah, apparently they say
if you want to get to this.
Apparently they say the young don't vote, but they also say that we vote out of greed. I don't think people voted the last time out of greed. Actually, I think it was proven.
The monopolies were broken up. I mean, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael got their lowest combined vote in history in the last election, and I think in terms of change of the ballots, I think it's going to be even more pronounced this time, because again, I would have trusted Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have seen their grandkids head off on planes or out on rivers, to paraphrase the Rubber Bandits.
And the generations.
I think that
the generations.
It's a matter of big ships taking time to turn around.
Yeah, and I think the generation that maybe who remember the Troubles that they're dying off too. I mean, really, it's nearly 20 years since the peace process.
Correct.
So those memories are fading, and I imagine a huge breakthrough for Sinn Féin at the next election.
not just
Neil,
it's
sorry, Mike.
No, I was about to hand it off to Neil there, but I was about to say Sinn Féin can make a breakthrough simply because there are younger voters that have been disaffected by the fact that into millennials versus baby boomers all day long, and we could get talking about who's labeling who or what have you. But the fact of the matter is, young people have had a bit of a raw deal in the last quote unquote recession, shall we say, wealth transfer, and there just seems to be like a whole upspurt in support for Sinn Féin among young people in working class areas, in addition to the traditional Republican vote. And I think that the two big guys really cannot discount young voters anymore. They really can't be looking at their youth wings as a developmental territory anymore. They need to see it as a battleground on which to fight. Frankly, it's a fight I hope they lose because we've all been under the thumb now for the last 8 to 10 years. And it's time for a change. It's time for a radical change. It's time for a reform. I could talk about my opinions on this all day long. Again, the term radical could, alienate a lot of voters in Ireland who are notoriously, not notoriously, but shall we say, stately centrist. And it's simply a matter of, are looking at their options. And, I think, again, if it was to call another election tomorrow, Sinn Féin immediately in alongside maybe the last hurrah for Fianna Fáil among elderly rural voters that want to see the good times back. But also, you can't discount a rise in the AAPBP. I think we're heading towards some sort of weird Mexican standoff between.
I'll just ask a millennial, Adele.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on?
I agree entirely. Like my generation of millennials.
Are they more open to Sinn Féin, or are they more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a somewhat clean slate if you don't do too much digging, and if we're basing our choices of what we see on the ground, like every day, then yeah, of course we would lean with all good sense towards Sinn Féin support. But also I think there's a problem with us all feeling so disempowered. Like we were disempowered for so long, our vote meant nothing to us. There was no value there. No matter how we voted, we would never see change, and you become disheartened when you look around at world politics and see people like Trump become elected. And you wonder how much your vote is worth. But I've seen like initiatives happen trying to encourage people to understand the value in their vote, and I hope that that's something that will show in the next election.
Yeah, well, I gather young people just don't vote; they just don't consistently. It's
Well, I think that's changing. I really do.
Yeah. Okay. Neil,
that's a fair generalization. I mean, I would technically be classified as a millennial as well at 28 years of age, what have you, and from the outset, I think a lot of us. Secondary school and heading into an economic crash, trying to go out through college or trying to, as I did the terrible mistake of trying to set up a business directly out of school in the middle of a recession, have seen it happen and are acutely aware of the fact that, politics is absolutely a central plank of how we deal with things. It is a major change agent. I would say that any of the people that I speak with, any of my circle of friends, although again, it could be an echo chamber, don't get me wrong, have all been very politically literate, have been aware of the role of politics in life that faces the mid to late 20s, and have taken every action on it. Unfortunately, whether it's the number not having turned up or pointing to a symptom of something else, I'm not necessarily sure. But I mean, absolutely, we can look at the last two administrations in particular now, and we can see the effect that their economic decisions have had on us, have had on our communities. Again, just all of them missing. So,
but a lot of our generation as well are gone. We've had to leave. We've had to leave for work or whatever. So we're not even here to cast those votes, even if we would like to, and we do feel powerful enough.
Yeah,
it's a release valve. Immigration as a release valve has been absolutely used strategically now throughout different recessions and crises, etc. That who are the first to go? F off to England and America and get some life experience for yourself.
Yeah.
How about no? Sure, Michael Noonan told us that was a lifestyle choice. We're obviously getting it wrong when we're talking about it.
funny how this
They
didn't happen.
used to say that what can he do if the young Irish people have a sense of adventure? But on a point Edel made there, I think I was actually at a meeting in 2013 for the gathering. They wanted ideas to bring people home. And I literally was around a table of elderly people. And I was the youngest by far. And so any suggestions? And I said, well, you want young people, you want people to come home. How about, like in America, I lived in Barcelona during the 2004 election. And it was, the Americans had a vote, and they voted from Barcelona, wherever they were. Why can't Irish people do that?
Yeah.
Because if they go away, they always have a sense of yearning to come home. But like if they, and with multimedia like this, these forums, people can engage and say, yeah, I'm interested in my country and politics. And by the way, I'll send an email and that'll be vote. But I couldn't imagine that the Irish government would be able to get together to vote for the voting system.
But to play devil's advocate to that, though, if you have somebody who's out of the country for 4, 5, 6 years and they're looking at Ireland through rose-tinted glasses, do we really think it's fair that that person has a vote there where they may not see the full picture of what's happening in the country, particularly when we're in a...
I know a fair few people, Neil, out of the country. They're definitely not looking at through rose-tinted glasses. They're looking at it through very red, angry eyes, and they're thinking like, why would I come back? And that's the problem. They should come back, and they should be part of the rebuilding of the country, because we're on our knees, lads.
Well,
it needs to change, and we need those people back. We need them back.
I think one of our commenters, Freddie Keane, and one of our columnists predicted Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, a Green coalition, and everybody laughed at her. But I think she may be right
I think she was on the money, quite frankly. I mean, you see two forces of populism. You see, obviously, and like populism in the actual sense, and not populism as a populist. Looking at, for example, Populist Watch on Twitter, just the term populist as a pejorative really irks me. So please don't get me wrong in when I'm saying populism, but in terms of Sinn Féin, obviously riding on popular positive sentiment, Fianna Fáil obviously riding on Celtic Tiger nostalgia and a certain fixed rump of voters. Increasingly, like, these two heads are going to have to butt at some point. And what have the cultural differences then between the more hardline Republicans, like the older Republicans in the Sinn Féin party, against old Fianna Fáil, and the catfighting that still goes on over the word Republican among them. You see it on. I mean, like, that's a hell of a compromise that'll have to be made by the grassroots on both parties. And I think aside from that, there's really nothing stopping. I think that's the most likely option if everyone can get around the table and iron out the cultural differences.
It's now 12:47, and I think we've been at this for a while. I think, but apart from the feedback stuff, was everybody happy with this evening?
Yeah, I think a good news story, John. I want to say something about Paula House. Beautiful story in Broadsheet there today with Eamon Dillon did a short film with one of the girls who was in Apollo House.
Yeah, Cheryl.
Cheryl Murphy, yeah, who's a model and who fell on hard times and was interviewed. It's a lovely piece, and it really kind of inspires the whole movement that Apollo House was. And we shouldn't forget about that either, That is still very much in the issue, that people actually had to do the government's job and say, listen, we're going to do it. And that's activism. And with activism leads to social conscience, and then that leads to politics and the right people in the right places. So, keep that spirit. With the week that was in it, that is a very good story to come out of it. I think that she's well on the mend, and she's hopefully getting herself back modeling. Amazing woman, and it was really, really beautifully shot by Eamon Dillon. So I'd like to mention that.
Brilliant. It's terrific, and it's on the site today. So if I'm going to master the screen share thing so I can show you what we're talking about as we go on.
We're working on upgrades to this whole thing.
We certainly need to deal with the feedback issue. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much to Conor McKeown, Conor McKeown, Adele Brady, Johnny Keenan, Olga Cronin, and our producer Mike McGrath, Brian, and me, John, preposterous rhyme. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the site tomorrow. Not see you, but you know the drift. Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
Have a good night.
Very true. Okay.